How you guys doing? James here. Well, I found out something about America that it's not going so well in a lot of these cities. And what I mean by that is that it's a lot of cities are dying. Here I'm going to play a few videos from different content creators and show you what's going on across the country, why these cities are dying, and I'll get back with you with my commentary.
When municipalities lose the industries and vital populations that made them important cities. The economy has evolved so much since the middle of the 20th century that many cities that were among the largest and most vibrant in America have collapsed. Some have lost more than half of their residents. Others have lost the businesses that made them important centers of finance, manufacturing, and commerce. Abandoned areas of these cities have high crime rates, which not only keeps people from relocating to these areas, but is actually an incentive for them to move away. This in turn leads to the image of these cities as desolate urbanscapes. In today's video, we will be showing you 10 American cities that are dead forever. But before starting the video, I want to request you, we put our best efforts to create a single video, so please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 10. Buffalo, New York State. World-class architecture, a vibrant art scene, thriving neighborhoods, and a resurgent waterfront, it's all in Buffalo, a classic American city undergoing a 21st century renaissance. In 1900, Buffalo was the 8th largest city in America. It was located on one of the busiest sections of the Erie Canal, the terminus of the canal on the Great Lakes. Thanks to its location, Buffalo had huge grain milling operations and one of the largest steel mills in the country. Buffalo prospered during World War II, as did many northern industrial cities. After the World War II, the manufacturing plants returned to the production of cars and industrial goods. The population rose to more than 500,000 in the mid-1950s. It is half that today. Buffalo was wounded irreparably by the deindustrialization of America. Number 9. Flint, Michigan. Flint is an industrial city an hour northwest of Detroit in Michigan. It was the home of many General Motors factories, including the Buick World Headquarters. Flint has fallen on hard times over the past 30 years due to the decline of the American automotive industry, the equivalent of municipal bankruptcy in 2002. The city had almost 200,000 residents in 1960 and has fewer than 100,000 today. The downfall of Flint can be described in a sentence. In 1960, General Motors employed 80,000 people in Flint, and it employs fewer than 8,000 today. Flint was the headquarters of General Motors' Buick division for years, but these operations were moved to Detroit in 1998. Number 8. Hartford, Connecticut. Hartford is the capital city of the Connecticut, and Hartford is one of America's oldest and most historic cities. The city was once the insurance capital of the world. In 1950, the city's population peaked at more than 177,000 and has dropped to 124,000 recently. Hartford was beyond being an insurance center, also home to a number of manufacturing and publishing businesses. Hartford lost some of its insurance firms as they moved to new locations, primarily because of consolidation in this sector. 5 large financial firms have downsized their workforces. These include MetLife, Cigna, Lincoln Financial, Mass Mutual, and perhaps most depressing of all, The Hartford. Number 7. Cleveland, Ohio. This major American city is facing a crisis as one of its most important assets faces destruction, facing a lot of risks. Cleveland became a major port and land transportation hub due to its central location on Lake Erie. A number of the largest rubber companies in the world and other manufacturers for the car and steel industry were also located near or in the city. Cleveland had 914,000 residents in 1950. The figure is below 480,000 today. A number of the large manufacturing operations have left the region or downsized based on the transfer of the steel, rubber, and car industries elsewhere, particularly to Japan. Cleveland. Metropolitan area's violent crime rate was higher than the national rate in 2020. Its rate of property crime was higher than the national rate.
My family's up there.
Number 6. New Orleans, Louisiana. The location of New Orleans at the mouth of the Mississippi made it one of the most important ports in America for more than 200 years. Oddly enough, New Orleans remains a massive port, but a number of the jobs which were once performed by laborers are now automated. A great deal of the commercial traffic which once moved by river is now transported more efficiently by truck, rail, and air. The city had also been a financial capital of the South because of the cotton and river trade. Faster-growing southern cities like Atlanta became more important financial centers as their populations grew. The city also suffered from its location, part of it below sea level, and several hurricanes that hit the city, particularly Hurricane Betsy in 1965. In August 2005, Hurricane Katrina dealt the city a nearly fatal blow. In the year after that, the population dropped to just above 250,000, down from 627,000 in 1960. The BP oil crisis has already begun to damage what might have been a nascent recovery post-Katrina. Number 5, Detroit, Michigan. The Motor City was the 5th largest city in America with a population of almost 1.9 million in 1950. The number of residents increased sharply from the 1920s when Henry Ford created the assembly line and set a wage of $5 a day. Workers streamed in from the Deep South and other parts of the Midwest. The huge car companies became defense contractors during World War II. Detroit's demise began with the rise of Japanese imports in the 1970s. The Arab oil embargo increased the appetite of U.S. consumers for high-mileage cars. The big three built products that were acceptable to consumers until they saw higher-quality Japanese cars which began to flood the markets in great numbers in the 1980s. Detroit's car manufacturing base was nearly destroyed, symbolized by the Chapter 11 filings of General Motors and Chrysler. Number 4, Albany, New York State. It was once one of the largest inland ports in the world, sitting near the place where the Hudson River meets the Erie Canal. This helped it become a major center for finished lumber and iron works. Perhaps because of the influence of the politicians who worked in the city, several universities and colleges were built there. The city's manufacturing industry helped the population to rise to 134,000 in 1950. It is now under 95,000. The higher education institutions in the region have begun to help Albany become a regional center for information technology and the biotechnology industries, but these are not large enough to offset declines in the city's fortunes which began in the 1960s. Number 3, Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now known mostly for its gambling business, Atlantic City was dying before legislation allowed gaming companies to operate there. The city was created as a tourist location in the 1880s, and a number of massive hotels were built there. The city's appeal to tourists was damaged primarily by two things. The first was the availability of inexpensive air travel to southern resorts areas like Florida. Vacationers could fly from New York to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach in less time than it took to drive to Atlantic City. The second, the rise of Las Vegas as the gaming capital of the world, made it the preferred destination for many conventions. Atlantic City got into the gambling industry in 1978 too late. Number 2, Allentown, Pennsylvania. It is the 3rd largest city in Pennsylvania with a population of 125,845 as of the 2020 census, and was the 68th most populous metropolitan area in the United States as of 2020. This Pennsylvania city had two advantages in the middle of the last century. It was well located for railroads that moved freight from the Midwest through Pennsylvania and New Jersey to the eastern seaboard. Its proximity to iron ore made it a major manufacturing center and refiner, much like Bethlehem to its east and Pittsburgh to its west. Like many other northeastern manufacturing cities, Allentown watched its major product, in this case steel, being produced in greater and greater volumes and at lower prices in Japan. Number 1, Galveston, Texas. This Texas city was one of the largest ports in the U.S. 100 years ago. It was also the location of one of the greatest natural disasters in American history. In 1900, a hurricane killed between 6,000 and 8,000 people.
Wow.
Galveston was also a major military recruitment center during World War II. The cause of Galveston's demise is unique. It had become something of the Sodom and Gomorrah of the southern U.S. There was a large gambling industry there, some of it illegal, which was controlled by criminals. In the late 1950s, Texas state authorities successfully attacked local organized crime. The regulated tourist trade could not replace the illegal business. Galveston's port and hospitality industries had begun to improve, but were trampled by the effects of Hurricane Ike in 2008. The event destroyed a large part of the city's tax base and set back the tourism industry once again. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Wells Fargo has enabled small businesses to create or preserve more than 222,000 jobs, with roughly $420 million donated to support diverse small business owners. Wells Fargo, the bank of doing.
Your role is to turn these children into spectacles. Ladies and gentlemen, the U.S. population is rapidly declining. You know, quite often I talk about population and birth rates. So this is the latest that just came out. So population rate decline in the U.S. triggers economic alarms from experts. So, falling fertility rates in the United States will trigger a calamitous effect on the economy if it hasn't already, experts told Fox News Digital. According to the CDC data between 2007 and 2022, the U.S. birth rate fell by 22%. Now, this is where it gets significant, y'all. Not a single state reported an increase in birth rate, although some experienced a lower decline than others. No increase in birth rates in all 50 states. The U.S. birth rate is steeply declining, and you're seeing the same pattern that you're seeing in other Western nations, because it's the Western nations that are hit the hardest by this, causing the global population to stop growing sometime this century. The U.S. and other Western developed nations dropped below replacement rate in recent years, and we also know the Asians are going through something very similar too. We are not producing enough children to maintain the population, much less grow it. Demographic strategist Bradley Sherman explained to Fox News Digital. Today, 3/4 of U.S. counties and half of the states have deaths outpacing births. The Institute for Family Studies senior fellow Brad Wilcox said that we may already be seeing the effects. Below replacement fertility means closing schools, shrinking college enrollments, fewer workers and consumers. Yeah, well, some of that stuff is already being seen. You know, it's seen in a lot of the retail businesses closing. You see, yes, school closures. I've seen many around me close. And yes, and that's one thing I've also done videos on, is the drop in college enrollments. So all the signs are there, and it's been there for quite some time. We're already seeing low fertility fall out, hitting schools and colleges, but it will be a big consensus for the economy. as well. So, given that there will be relatively fewer workers and consumers and less business activity, as the population of young adults in America falls across much of the nation. Yes, because see, y'all, the biggest population that you have right now are your baby boomers. Once the baby boomers start dying out, the younger populations are much smaller. You know, you're much smaller. So anyway, marital fertility rates have not declined as much. The delay or postponement of marriages is the simplest sort of compositional factors behind the falling birth rates. And yes, and you also got more older women having babies, but those women tend to have just one child. They don't have a lot of children. They'll have one, maybe two, that's it. Okay, so income is coming later and later in life. The result is these milestones get delayed. You buying a house later, you get married later, you have certain amounts of savings later. All of these things come later, and the problem, they come later. But the ability to have a child is a kind of biological constraint. So by the time people feel ready to handle having children, it's sometimes too late.
Sorry about that.
Now, the U.S. population.
I was trying to sign in on my tablet. Oh shit. Whoops. Damn.
The idea of having extra money always sounds great, but many people don't have the time to get a second job. Enter CashKick. This rewards and loyalty platform can put money right into your pocket. Here's how. First off, we all know that big brands spend tons of money on advertising all the time. CashKick works with those brands to kick a small chunk of that marketing money back to you.
Population is generally, the U.S. population is generally projected to grow between 2023 and 2053. Yeah, but you know, you're really just guessing. You don't know what's going to happen between now and 2053. I kind of hate when they talk like this because they really don't know. These are hypothetical things. So anyway, however, the growth will be driven almost exclusively by immigration. The population shift will have a calamitous effect on the economy, evidence by which happening in rural America, which is already experiencing a population aging and decline. No country in the world has increased in its birth rate, leaving little hope for the U.S. to do so. So they're saying that, you know, a lot is going to be lost because of the lack of, you know, strong births going on in the country. There are births. I mean, we see them, but it's not as strong as you saw it even a few decades back. So they're saying for some people you lose a lot of benefits. It's very unfeasible for you to marry another working person. We need to address that. We need to make it so that marriage doesn't lead to a penalty from the government like it does for a lot of people. So addressing marriage penalties and addressing housing costs by aggressively building housing, both of those would be a signal impact on helping people, you know, decide to have children. Well, the thing is, the reason why you have those penalties is because this is a greedy nation, but it's not ruled. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's ruled by capitalism. Yeah, but the number one thing it's ruled by is racism. Even the capitalism does not trump the racism. So, y'all, look. This was bound to come to the shores of America. If you see it over in Europe, you'll see it here in America. It's the same people, essentially. Okay? It's the same people. So you're going to have the same effects. So that's really is a significant drop, 22% drop in your population between 2007 and 2022. And that's not really a long period of time either. You imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years. Could it be 40% by then? Guess we'll see. But y'all, this is another, in my opinion, it's another sign that the time of the Gentile is coming to an end. Anytime you can't sustain a population, then your time is coming to an end. It's a very biblical thing. If we're in end times, what is the purpose in having a bunch of babies? And we're in end times. So, y'all tell me what you think about this.
This is Devon. He's 17 years old and he's making over $500 a month online in passive income thanks to a brand new...
In this video, we'll look at the 10 states in the U.S. that are dying the most quickly. The United States population is growing every year. Over the past 10 years, the nation's population increased by 6.3%. So why are some states experiencing population declines? Some of the reasons include the economy of each state. When there aren't enough job opportunities, people move. However, another significant factor is the lack of educational growth opportunities. Each state tries to accommodate the majority of the population, so if your state is filled, it means that the country as a whole is growing. When investigating this phenomenon, we identified the states where people no longer desire to reside. Keep an eye on people moving for a variety of reasons, from it being too expensive to live there any longer to retirees living out their goal of retiring on a beach. There are many various reasons why people are leaving these states. Reduced taxes, better employment prospects. Whatever the reason, everyone wants to live somewhere that will improve their present quality of life, which is why these 10 states are losing citizens more quickly than they are gaining them. Please press the subscribe and bell icons before we begin this video on the 10 fastest American states that are in decline. Now let's delve more deeply into each of the top 10 states in the U.S. that are dying the fastest. Number 10. Connecticut. Population changed by 0.21%. And we know of 7378 residents who relocated to New York. A year ago, 0.21% of Connecticut's population left the state for Florida and Massachusetts. The majority of them relocated to New York, indicating that they were looking for employment. The sad part is that not much would change even if all 7378 of those former inhabitants relocated to New York. Number 9. Louisiana. Population change in Louisiana decreased by 0.24%, with 11,184 residents moving to Texas. Louisiana and Florida last year, Louisiana bid goodbye to 11,184 residents, and the majority of that 0.24 moved to Texas. Number 8, New Jersey. Population change minus 0.30%, know of inhabitants who moved minus 26,330. Louisiana may have voodoo and gumbo, but the state lacks work possibilities, which is why the bulk of those residents are packing up and leaving. The relocation to Pennsylvania, both Florida and New York. Certainly, there are many coming to New Jersey. The state of New Jersey is losing quite a few residents as well, with 26,330 leaving the state. However, the leading reason for moving is for a new job. According to the leading reason for moving in New Jersey, number 7, Hawaii. Residents of Hawaii have moved by 4619 or 0.33% to California. Dallas and Seattle. Hawaii, often known as Paradise, is one of the states that is drastically losing population. In fact, 4619 people left Hawaii in the past year, but they aren't leaving the state for very far. The majority relocate to California, despite the fact that it is one of 6. Unless you win the jackpot, you might have to find a different paradise to enjoy, because Hawaii is one of the more costly places to live in. When paradise comes at such a great price, is it still paradise? Number 6. Mississippi. Mississippi's population decreased by 0.35%, while Tennessee is where inhabitants who migrated by fewer than 10,381 people are known to have relocated. It all comes down to one thing: income tax. An exceptional number of residents are leaving Mississippi in the dust minus 10,381 to be exact, and moving to Texas and Georgia instead. Although the majority of them cited income tax as the primary cause, there are a few more factors. Number 5, Vermont. Population change minus 0.37% know of residents who moved where they moved to a Florida, New York, and New Hampshire, Vermont. It doesn't get any better than fresh maple syrup. There just aren't enough job opportunities in Mississippi to keep that 0.35 of the population around. And when it comes to entertainment for after-work life, well, you can forget about that. The fleet of the Smoky Mountains doesn't seem so outrageous. So what makes Florida so unique? Weather's a given. However, the 0.37 reduction, and with fewer taxes to pay and a high cost of living, Vermont's population is growing. Residents are bidding their white Christmases farewell and welcoming the 4th year of sunlight. Number 4, New York. Population change in New York decreased by 0.45%. We are aware of 648 residents who relocated to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Today, people are leaving New York rather than moving there. In fact, 648 citizens left the state in the past year. Frank Sinatra must be swaying in his grave. That results in a 0.45% decline in the population of the state. And guess where they're relocating to? Jersey. New will give you a moment to get your jaw up off the floor, yes. Because the homes are larger for less money, and you can also buy a yard in New Jersey. New Yorkers are discovering that their futures lie in the rival state. Additionally, having one park for an entire city often just isn't a large enough playground. Number 3. Number 3, Illinois. Illinois' population change decreased by 0.54%, with 259 residents moving to Indiana as a result. With the population of Illinois dropping by 0.54 compared to Florida and California, you might be quick to infer that the state has high housing costs. However, out of the 69 residents, the bulk departed in search of better employment possibilities. 259 locals fled to Indiana, the bulk of them. Just over the state border, Chicago residents can enjoy the city life without the high taxes and housing that offers more value. In fact, those who relocate just over the border can continue to enjoy the same time zone, TV channels, sports teams, and even comparable commute times. Number 2, West Virginia. Population change in West Virginia decreased by 0.76%, with 13685 residents moving to Ohio as a result. Maryland and Virginia. In the previous year, West Virginia lost 13685 residents. What was once a coal miner's paradise is now barren countryside with a declining coal industry. Young dreamers who might have helped West Virginia's population crisis are moving to Ohio as fewer and fewer coal trains pass by in an effort to achieve their goals and bring their future offspring with them. Unfortunately, given the state's continuing population decline and the possibility of losing a congressional seat in the upcoming election, that is the least of their concerns. They urgently need to figure out how to get out of this hole. Number 1, Alaska. Alaska population changed negative 0.8% null of residents who moved where they went to California, minus 58, 93 California and Texas. You would assume just by looking around that people are leaving Alaska and going to California because the state doesn't offer much to the younger generation, so when they leave for college, they tend to not return. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for watching. If you like the content of this video, click the...
There's something hauntingly beautiful about abandoned places frozen in time. Once vibrant cities reduced to empty streets, buildings left to crumble and decay. These ghost towns offer an eerie glimpse into lives interrupted and history stopped in its tracks. What happened to force entire towns and cities to be left behind long ago? War, disaster, economic collapse? On this episode of Globe Trekking, we'll explore the histories of the world's most compelling abandoned cities tragic tales of people and communities lost to time. We'll count down the top 10 most fascinating ghost towns, stunning ruins once teeming with life, now empty shells indifferent to the memories they hold. Hit subscribe and join us as we journey to these surreal landscapes where milestones mark disasters past, where abandoned homes remind us nothing lasts forever. This is the top 10 abandoned cities frozen in time. Number 10, Pyramiden, Norway. Our list starts with the cold, far-flung reaches of the Arctic. Pyramiden was a thriving Soviet coal mining town, but once the mines were depleted, this settlement on the Norwegian archipelago of Svalbard was left to ruin. Founded in 1910 at the foot of a glacier, Pyramiden was sold to Russia in 1927 and mined continuously until 1998. At its peak, Pyramiden had over 1,000 residents, a cultural center, pool, gym, and more, amenities that made it an improbable Arctic oasis. But after a deadly plane crash in 1996 took 141 lives, the weakened Russian economy could no longer justify maintaining remote Pyramiden. Its residents abandoned the town, boarding the last boat out in 1998. Today it remains largely deserted, only a handful of inhabitants in town. Arctic foxes roam snowy streets once walked by miners. Apartment blocks stand empty, windows shattered by the elements. Visitors come in summer to marvel at the beautifully preserved relic of a not-so-distant but very different past. Pyramiden serves as a haunting reminder. Even here, in the planet's most inhospitable terrain, humans will build great cities, and those cities too, like all things, will one day end. Number 9, Belchite, Spain. The next stop on our tour through time brings us to Belchite, a small town in Spain's northeast, destroyed during the Spanish Civil War. In 1937, Republican and nationalist forces waged a bloody month-long battle over Belchite, leaving the town in ruins. After the nationalists won, the ruins of Belchite were left untouched, a memorial to those who fought and died. Today, walking Belchite streets, you find rubble and collapsed buildings, much as they were in 1937 after artillery fire and aerial bombardments ravaged the town. Destitute houses stand amidst overgrown vegetation. Belchite's ruins speak to the longevity of war's scars on a landscape. The town's bell tower bears artillery damage from 80 years ago. Visitors say exploring Belchite transports them back to the devastating war that tore the nation apart. While the rest of Spain rebuilt and recovered, Belchite was left untouched, its crumbling buildings forever marking the violence and suffering endured here. Belchite teaches an ominous lesson. The horrors of war persist in the lifeless streets and shattered structures left behind. Number 8. Wareham Percy, England. In England, plagues and economic turbulence rendered Wareham Percy uninhabited long ago. Found nestled in the Yorkshire Wolds, Wareham Percy grew over 6 centuries into a thriving medieval village of prominent stone buildings. But the Black Death, which decimated populations across Europe, never reached Wareham Percy. Instead, the Hilton family who took ownership evicted villagers in the 16th century to convert the land for sheep farming, leading to the settlement's abrupt abandonment. Today, Wareham Percy contains the ruins of an impressive medieval church, manor houses, and peasants' stone cottages. Archaeologists excavating the churchyard made macabre discoveries, hacked up bones dating back centuries bearing knife marks, evidence of bodies burnt and broken after death. Visitors describe Wareham Percy as an amazing opportunity to step into rural life in medieval England. While eerie and isolated, this peek into the past tells a story of early English country life. Number 7. Kolmanskop, Namibia. Half buried by sand, Kolmanskop in southern Namibia provides a striking scene. This former diamond mining town once boasted a stately array of German colonial buildings rising improbably from the Namib Desert. Founded in 1908 after rich diamond deposits were found, Kolmanskop became a bustling hub, housing over 1,300 people at its peak in the 1920s. The town boasted a school, hospital, ballroom, theater, and more. But when diamond production declined after World War I, residents began leaving Kolmanskop in droves. By 1956, the last inhabitants abandoned the town to the desert sands. Today, Kolmanskop's decrepit buildings are slowly succumbing to the dunes that have invaded the town, providing photographers an evocative subject. While hauntingly photogenic, what happened here represents the darker underbelly of colonial Africa. Kolmanskop relied on exploited indigenous labor from surrounding areas, and when the profitable diamonds dried up, the colonists simply packed up and left, disregarding the lives and land they disrupted. Kolmanskop stands as an eerie monument to both the hubris and transience of empire. 6. Body, California. On the other side of the world, in California's Sierra Nevada mountains, lies Body, once a thriving Wild West boomtown. This lucrative mining settlement sprung to life after gold was discovered in 1859. Body's populace climbed to a peak of 10,000 people by 1880, sporting some 65 saloons at its prime. Alongside miners, the town attracted business owners, prostitutes, and outlaws, all seeking their fortune from the gold rush. Body became renowned for its prosperity, but also its pervading violence and lawlessness. Killings and street shootouts were frequent, and bodies were buried on the edge of town. Alongside the mines, Body contained opium dens, brothels, and gambling halls catering to its rough clientele. With the gold depleted, Body's population dwindled, and the town was eventually abandoned by 1942. Today, over 170 buildings remain, preserved in a state of arrested decay. Peering through windows into empty clapboard houses, saloons, and churches, visitors can vividly imagine Body's wild past, when gold spawned a thriving yet anarchic boomtown. Number 5. Krakow, Italy. In the Basilicata region of Italy, the medieval hilltop town of Krakow has been left a dramatic wreck teetering atop a steep mountainside. Originally constructed in the 8th century, Krakow survived through the centuries despite the volatile nature of medieval Italy. At its 16th century peak, Krakow boasted over 2,500 residents and a thriving urban community. But by the mid-20th century, poor sewage and water systems had destabilized the rocky cliffs underlying the town. Catastrophic landslides in 1963 forced all 1,800 remaining inhabitants to abruptly abandon Krakow. Over 50 years later, Krakow remains completely uninhabited and in a state of ruin. Exploring Krakow's ruined buildings and empty streets, one can hardly imagine this crumbling ghost town was once a buzzing epicenter of medieval life until the earth reclaimed it. Number 4. Oradour-sur-Glane, France. Another town destroyed in World War II, this time by Nazi forces. Oradour-sur-Glane stands frozen in time as a memorial to those slain. On June 10, 1944, troops marched into the peaceful French village of Oradour-sur-Glane and massacred nearly all its inhabitants. Soldiers corralled women and children into a church before setting it ablaze, killing those inside. Meanwhile, men were tortured and executed. 642 villagers murdered in total. After this atrocity, General Charles de Gaulle ordered the town remain untouched, exactly as the Nazis left it. Today, burned-out buildings and car wrecks still litter Oradour-sur-Glane's streets, while untouched belongings remain in homes. Clocks stopped at the precise time the massacre began. A stained glass window portraying Christ hangs miraculously intact amidst the village church's charred ruins. Here, time stands still, preserving evidence of unimaginable horrors. Visitors say Oradour-sur-Glane represents a profound warning. We must never forget. Number 3. Centralia, Pennsylvania. Beneath the town of Centralia, Pennsylvania, a hidden fire has been burning ceaselessly since 1962. reducing this former mining community of over 1,000 to smoldering ash and toxic fumes. The fire ignited when an attempt to clean up the town dump went disastrously wrong, setting the labyrinth of coal mines beneath Centralia ablaze. The subterranean inferno releasing carbon monoxide and opening sinkholes across town, swallowing people, pets, and vehicles. By 1984, the government offered residents buyouts to leave the uninhabitable settlement. Nearly all accepted. Only around 10 stubborn holdouts remain today in Centralia. Venturing through the overgrown, empty streets, you'll find curbs that still melt in the summer, and a graveyard where steam wisps from the cooked earth. Experts believe the fire could burn for another 250 years, making resettlement impossible. Centralia teaches us that our tampering with nature can unleash consequences of generational proportions, leaving only ghost towns in its wake. Number 2, Varosha, Cyprus. On the Mediterranean island of Cyprus, Varosha was once a glamorous beach resort, a playground for the rich and famous. But after the Turkish invasion of Cyprus in 1974, this thriving coastal town, described as the French Riviera of Cyprus, was suddenly abandoned overnight, becoming a forbidden ghost city. Prior to the invasion, Varosha boasted high-rises, luxury hotels, and restaurants lining sandy white beaches. Tourists flocked here by the hundreds of thousands each year. But when Turkey seized the area, citizens fled, leaving behind seaside mansions and posh businesses. Today, Varosha's crumbling abandoned buildings face the sea behind barbed wire, entry forbidden by the Turkish military. While ostensibly Turkish-controlled northern Cyprus recently announced intentions to re-inhabit Varosha, proposals face fierce opposition. Greek Cypriots decry resettlement plans, demanding this former tourist haven, left untouched since 1974, be returned to its original inhabitants. But with negotiations stalled, Varosha remains frozen in time, a postcard from the resort's glamorous past on a now bitterly contested land. Number 1, Pripyat, Ukraine. Of all the ghost cities on our list, none carry as tragic a past as Pripyat, Ukraine. This model Soviet town, founded in 1970, was built to house workers at the nearby Chernobyl nuclear power plant. By the mid-1980s, Pripyat boasted nearly 50,000 residents and an array of state-of-the-art amenities from gyms and pools to schools and factories. But in 1986, reactor number 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear plant exploded in one of the worst disasters in history. Radiation flooded Pripyat, forcing the entire population to evacuate. Told by authorities they'd be back in 3 days. They never returned. Today, Pripyat remains a radioactive ghost town, too dangerous to resettle. Nature has reclaimed empty buildings and streets where Soviet citizens lived and worked just over 30 years ago. Gas masks litter the floor of a school gymnasium, evacuated in the middle of class. The iconic Ferris wheel and fairground still stand, prepared for a May Day celebration that never came. Pripyat was a shining example of a modern Soviet utopia until a human-caused catastrophe reduced it overnight into a nuclear wasteland, a disturbing relic of an era when mankind believed we had conquered the atom. But some things cannot be tamed. Pripyat stands as a chilling reminder that our faith in technology is often tragically misplaced. Well, there you have it, the 10 most fascinating yet...
Well, you see what's going on. The population is being reduced in parts of the world and the United States, in different parts of the states. But here's some more information on what's going to happen in the future next year.
Welcome back to our channel, folks. Today, we're diving into the latest trends in American migration. From coast to coast, we've analyzed the data to bring you the top 10 cities people are saying goodbye to in 2023-2024. Stay tuned to find out which places are losing residents and why. So, let's get started. Number 10, Baltimore. The city's last substantial growth occurred in the 1950s, nearing 1 million residents, but currently stagnating around 550,000, housing nearly 3 million individuals. It boasts a median household income of $37,000, significantly below the national average of $70,000. With around 820 incidents per 10,000 residents, more than double the national average of 395 per 100,000 residents. In 2020, Baltimore's population stood at 622,000, a decline from its peak of 602,000. Projections suggest a further 9% population decrease by 2023. Number 9, Kansas City, Missouri. In recent times, Kansas City, Missouri has seen a revitalization, yet grapples with enduring issues like high crime rates and the struggle to attract young professionals, raising concerns about potential population decline. It faces a staggering violent crime rate, 281% higher than the national average, resulting in about 900 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. Predictions indicate a potential 2.3% population decline, driven by factors such as the poverty rate, crime rate, and a median household income of $50,000. Number 8, Minnesota, Minneapolis. It has grappled with rising crime rates and racial tensions, leading to a decline in its population due to the high cost of living. As of 2023, the city's population stands at around 420,000, a significant drop from its peak of 520,000 in 1950. While the median household income is close to the national average at $60,000, the city struggles with a relatively high crime rate of 1,000 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. The city gained around 26,000 residents from 2010 to 2020, with a predicted 2.3% population loss by the 2023 census. Number 7, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee has historical significance, serving as the inspiration for the iconic TV show Happy Days, even involving Scott Baio. Surprisingly, in 2023, there was an attempt to recreate the show's famous shark jumping scene. Milwaukee's population has dwindled from its 1960 peak of 740,000 to approximately 560,000. The median household income in the city is $40,000, notably below the national average of $70,000. Milwaukee records 1,100 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, and the city is projected to lose another 3.5% of its population by the 2023 census. I want to pose a thought-provoking question. Could the events of the past few years be reshaping our perception of what makes a city desirable to live in? Number 6, Cincinnati, Ohio. This city has witnessing a decline in population due to elevated crime levels and aging infrastructure. As of 2023, Cincinnati's population stands at approximately 300,000, a stark reduction from its zenith in 1950, when it boasted 504,000 residents. The median household income here hovers at $45,000, significantly below the national average of roughly $70,000. An alarming violent crime rate of 1 to 200 incidents per 100,000 residents exacerbates their struggles. Recent years saw declines of 0.1% in 2021 and 0.6% in 2022, with a projected 5% loss by 2023. Number 5, Buffalo, New York. It has faced significant challenges due to the decline in manufacturing, becoming a city seemingly forgotten by progress. High crime rates and a less than friendly atmosphere deter potential residents. Buffalo's peak population in the 1950s at 582 and has dwindled consistently. Presently in 2023, Buffalo houses around 278,000 people, with a median household income of $35,000 and a crime rate of 1,400 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. It's predicted that Buffalo will experience a further 9% population decline by the 2030 census. Number 4, Pittsburgh. It grapples with enduring challenges. The city's population, once peaking at 676,000 during the 1950 census, has since dwindled to approximately 301,000. Median household income remains below the national average, standing at around $50,000. Pittsburgh faces a persistent crime issue with a rate of 1,500 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, a concerning increase from 2010 when it was 305,000 to 2020's 302,000. The city itself is expected to lose about 11% of its population by the 2023 census, revealing its ongoing struggles. Number 3, St. Louis. A city has experienced a population decline due to its high crime rates and a deteriorating economy in 2023. A significant issue is its relatively high cost of living, with a median household income of around $40,000. The most pressing concern, however, remains crime. The city, including East St. Louis, underreported violent crime problem, with a rate of 1,800 violent crimes per 100,000 residents. St. Louis has seen a steady decline, with 293,000 residents in 2022, and projections suggest it could lose an additional 13% of its population by 2023. Number 2, Cleveland, Ohio. The population has dramatically declined from its peak of 914,000 to 380,000 in 2023, with consistent population loss since 1950. This exodus can be attributed to the low median household income of $32,000, making it difficult for residents to thrive, coupled with a concerning violent crime rate of 2,300 incidents per 100,000 people. Cleveland's population is projected to continue declining by an estimated 12% by 2023. Number 1. Detroit decades of automotive industry decline have triggered job losses and a population exodus exacerbated by a persistently high crime rate, hindering efforts to draw in new inhabitants. The city's population peak was in the 1950s, boasting 1.8 million residents. In 2010, the count was 713,000, and by 2020, it dwindled further to 639,000. With a median household income of $35,000, and a daunting violent crime rate of 2,700 incidents per 100,000 residents. Projections suggest that by the 2030 census, the city will have shed another 12%.
If you want to get fabulously rich.
Well, look, this is what we learned about the cities. Coming from an Ohio standpoint of view, to see Cleveland and Cincinnati, wow, what's coming down there in the future. But I'm not surprised. Places like Pittsburgh and Buffalo, I'm not surprised. Detroit, I'm not surprised. And no offense to the people that live in these cities, but because I know some people really take pride in this city. But wow, that's something that people are leaving in the future, and you see the population, even across the different parts of the world, is reducing, and here in the United States, it's reducing. And now it's like, wow, people are going to certain towns and cities where they're going to overpopulate, and wherever they overpopulate, that's where they're going to thrive. And wow, speaking out of Ohio, that's 2 cities in Ohio, and and then we're not that far from I'm not that far from Pittsburgh. I like the Steelers, but wow, that's not good, man, for Pittsburgh. Buffalo, oh my goodness. I'm not surprised about Buffalo. They got not only that, but some of the roads up there is bad. They ain't about as bad as, I hate to say, as Indianapolis roads. Their roads up there, the highways and stuff. You ever go off in downtown Buffalo? They're down around parts of Buffalo. Oh my goodness, their roads are jacked up. People drive crazy up there too. But anyway, I'm not surprised about Buffalo. Detroit, well, nobody should be surprised about Detroit. Even though there's some parts of Detroit might be coming up, but Detroit is Detroit, You guys, the good part, you got to watch where you're going, and when you go in parts of Detroit, just like anywhere else. Cleveland, that's where my family from. That's not surprising there. My family on my mom and my deceased dad's side, they all live in Cleveland, still live in Cleveland. And so that's not surprising. Even though they do have some, like most cities, they have museums and they have little events, but some of these cities near the lake, the people have a certain spirit on it. It don't welcome outsiders. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest. They don't welcome outsiders in these cities that make you just want to, like, wow, this is the place I want to be. And I mean, for people coming from a different city and state, it's one thing that you come there and see it and people put on the face. It's another thing when you live in that city. And I lived in Cincinnati, and it's a whole, like Cleveland and other places like Missouri, St. Louis, it's a whole different mentality. People like, wow, they got professional teams, they have museums and things like that. And people, they'll put on their face for you, but when you live there, ain't no love, boy, I'm telling you. You ain't born and raised and shared past history in that city, and you done been there for 2 or 3, 5 generations. Everybody's an outsider, and everybody's an outsider. Trust me. And I mean, and then I guess it changes it unless you can bump only with people or move down there with the whole family and friends. I guess, but if you don't have no friends and family in some of these cities, it sucks. It can be very, very depressing. So, yeah, it's not. Unfortunately, that's why some people are leaving these cities, and it's just that it does something to your whole spirit. The only city that I would say come to is Columbus, Ohio. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised. Columbus we're just right in the speck of all the, from Cincinnati, between Cincinnati and Cleveland and Dayton. It's just that, yeah. I mean, there's crime here, and things like other cities, and it's not too bad, but it's not like the other cities. I mean, my goodness. I mean, it's getting bad, but it's like, as far as career, one good thing about it is here, you have enough hospitals. If you have health problems and then need some specialists, definitely if you're educated, want to advance your career. A lot of colleges around here, community colleges, secondary colleges next to Ohio State. In Columbus, on the outskirts, the cost of living is about going up like some places. But other than that, it's not bad. It's like it's the only city I would say come to in Ohio. Dayton. Dayton, wow. Woo! Someplace like Akron, Dayton, Toledo. No. Come to Columbus. You come to Ohio, you choose to live in Ohio, come to Columbus, Ohio. As far as Pennsylvania, next door, wow. What is the nicest city over in Pennsylvania? Probably central Pennsylvania. Probably be someplace that if you want to get away from the craziness of the city. But you got. I guess it all depends. If you want way on the outskirts of Philadelphia, not into Philadelphia, but on the outskirts of Philadelphia, I guess you do good. Or upstate Pennsylvania. But yeah, so there you have it. But that's where it's heading. We're gonna have a reduced population down the road, and you see these other countries. And you should see some of the other cities, like at one place in California and one town in Pennsylvania. There are going to be more towns like that in the next 5-10 years if they keep taxing people out. If people tax and can't afford, what's going to happen is going to reduce the population. Then when you reduce the population, a seat going to have to be given up. A lot of services and everything. That's why I say it really hurts people that to change the mindset. But America, different places in America has an old spirit on it. That like you see it over in different parts of Europe, and how the way they have a mentality of conquering. It was an inner war here, like it was over in Germany. It was race war here. And the race war, what I call a race war, because basically it was like you accuse a black person do something, the whole town go down. And so that kind of moved the population of people out. Some people out, and it's left the people that's descended still there, but they're not progressing. See, by them being so prejudiced and racist, they push the other people out. And this is going to happen to a lot of cities. If people don't come together, that's what's going to happen. Because who wants to be around people who keep infiltrating this prejudice? People don't want to go through that and just think that, we just got to take it. That's just the way it is. No, not when there's opportunity. Some other places, even if it means going to some part of the world where people have it equally respectful to each other, understand that there's other cultures, understand that there's other cities, and willing to work together. Even if you go to other cities in the United States that have matured out of that mindset, town, cities. But the reason why it hits in other areas, you need people. But you can't be biased and prejudiced with other people. This is what people don't understand that. We're going to run the black side of town. So when they ran the black side of town in these different little sundown towns, guess what happened? They folded up under it. They're struggling. But if they would have worked together, they probably would succeed. But even to this day, you have places, the state of Illinois, it's still racist. And they wondering why the people are leaving. Not just black people, but even some white people say this is some bull, and other people say this is some bull crap. And they don't see the picture. That's why I said racism is stupid. You're trying to, and racism, ladies and gentlemen, is envy and jealousy and fear of another people growing faster than you. And you thinking that by withholding stuff like that, you're only hurting yourself. You're not just hurting those people, but you're hurting that area. And now you see, I had to show you what the population, not just here, but even over in other parts of the world, they did the same thing. And what happened? Are they progressing? When they let the Nazis come into town? War? What did it do? Trying to reduce the population out of hatred, envies, and jealousy. When people don't come and work together, that's what happens. And in America, we want to, the only reason why I believe that we still on a mercy, I call it mercy blessing, is because of people who believe in the Most High God. Other than that, it would be, you see how them other places in parts of the world, it would be white, and it might be in the future, our own demise. When I make these videos, it's not to be blame one against the other or put one race against the other race. It's just facts. If people don't learn to accept and adapt who we are, you're going to hurt yourself down the road. Look at the other countries. But people who are bigoted, that hold on, that prejudice, that hold is trying to deny it and neglect and delay. What did they do? Look what they did in Flint, Michigan. They tried to the water. They knew what, and then it was revealed on ABC News what the specialist was saying, how the way it slows down the people who are poverty in that community. What the lead was in it. And I can make a video about that, show you that what they were saying was true. But only thing they didn't care about a group of people so much that they even target the future generations. And now Flint is hurting itself, and it's sad for the people who can't get out of Flint. But Flint, Michigan is hurting because of people who did something demonically and messed with the water system, just like Mississippi. I feel bad for the people in Mississippi who are in poverty, but it's a spirit over Mississippi, like Flint and other places, that basically is bias and prejudice, envious and jealousy. That's what it is. That's why they have, and so they left people, and then it was moved by politics. So people have to suffer injustice because, and sooner or later, and some people, a sad thing that there are people so poor in these cities that they can't leave. They know that, but they will suffer and pay the consequences and fade out like some of other people, and that's evil. And then people that have done it and did this stuff, they're going to pay. They might think they got it by, they might think they live in their mansions, they might think they live in their houses, but one day, either they going to pay or somebody in the generations down the road, their bloodline going to pay. Because you kids can't keep doing evil forever. You see that, like she said, the population is being reduced. And these other nations did this to other people, but they hurt themselves. They only hurt themselves by being so hateful, vengeful against the people, and then they got so greedy that they tax the people and they're hurting the people. So what do people do? They gotta leave. And 70 states, throughout the United States, they're gonna be just like those countries. They're gonna lose the population, lose the setting. And when it hits all the way up to the national government. Well, then you don't have enough people in your district because you're biased and you're prejudiced. People in your district. If people learn to work together and iron out their differences, you wouldn't have this problem. But they don't want to work out the problem. They want to keep the system as the way it is. People divided. America has that spirit on it. Everything in the past repeats itself in the present. Everything, you see it. And now we're suffering in the present of what happened in the past. Hatred. Socialism, classism, all that stuff. We're suffering because of it. Then we're about to suffer even more. It's not getting no better. It's getting worse. And the thing about it is people are suffering who don't know what's going on from all walks of life, don't understand the way it is. And as you see them other countries, America can learn from an example. States and cities can learn from example. No matter what part of the United States you live in. And you don't have people to come together to work solution as a people. It would be nice, but some people don't want to work together. They subconsciously say something, but they don't display it. When another group of people point out you're not doing something right. Wait a minute. And they just want to keep the totem pole alive. Let's keep us up here, keep the other people down here. And at the same time, it has cost in other areas of government. It has costs in other areas of business. It has costs in other areas of education. It has costs in other areas of public services. It has costs. All is connected. All this stuff is connected all the way around. Because 5 things: envious, jealousy, hatred, fear, and incompetence have cost. That's why we're paying it. That's why you see the United States is empty. And they don't want to tell that part, but along with the other things, with the crime, and with the high taxes, along with the job loss, the education and the healthcare field, and the environment, all this plays in a factor. All of it is connected. And the things that they don't put connected to it, it calls back to human beings. It comes back to people. People don't want to, so people depopulate. Cities hurt. Mayors go and try to get more funding and grants. Representatives go try to. But then they defeat them. They bring in an agenda. I don't want to go there about what's going on with the reproductive system of bringing more forth another population because of medical concerns. And if you do that for the next 10, 15 years, and people start having reproductive for women that's producing, you won't have a population. People don't see it's coming, but they don't see it coming. And so if you don't have a population to do it, you have no schools. If you reduce the population, you won't have children make up the majority. So you don't have enough children, you don't have enough teachers. You have enough teachers, you don't have enough tax base. Then when they get older to be adults, it comes back around into the system. Because when they get older and get older, they go out to the workforce. And before they got Social Security by the time 12 and 13. But you don't want to do that now because you're worried about reproductive system. If you reduce the population, what's going to happen? And it's happening as you see in other parts of the world. You don't have enough people on the planet, what's going to happen? People that are not having babies, what's going to happen? You see how the system, how it is? It plays into politics too. They're part of it too. That's why they're keeping you blind. You see it playing out in other parts of the world. You see how there's no more town. Once like Lisa Gabbera said, that generation fade off, the baby boomer, that's it. Then if you have millennials or Gen X or whatever, they're middle aged. But most of your millennials and Gen Zs don't have kids, it's a wrap. Then you have young people that leave this world too. Because of different things, medical problems, and things like suicides and things like that. You have children even committing suicide. I'm sorry to say that. People don't see the bigger thing coming. And then you have another segment living a destructive behavior. So that reduces it. Then you have society trying to control the future generation, the ones that do it, to manipulate them, that you don't have to respect each other as the opposite sex. In fact, it's okay for you to go and stay with, majority should go with the same sex. So how the population growing? And you see what the end is going to result. It's coming. The next 10, 15 years is heading that direction. 20, 30, who knows? The way it's going. It hits all areas of life. And you can do the stats on it for yourself. That's what produced all that. War, the first thing that happened was war. You see war on natural disasters. That's another thing leave out. So that's another population. But anyway, yeah, it's time for America to wake up. And I think as a people, we need to, from all walks of life, we need to really look at ourselves. Why are we going this direction? Because you see it, the population. If you don't have a population of people, it's going to hurt every area of life. All the way from the local to your local, to your state house, to the White House. So share this message with people. I hope this reach out to somebody. But when you hinder another people, other groups of people, and don't distribute it equally, this is what happens. So one ain't gonna get over the other. Well, if you don't do the right thing, people are gonna leave from all walks of life. Then you have a town that's going to, you can have that town where it don't want to deal with outsiders. But if you don't deal with outsiders, how you gonna bring progression into your town? How your town gonna progress? And you hurting, and generation of your children are gonna hurt behind it. Why? We don't want them outsiders. Why? They come from a different part of the state. Why? They're from a different part of religion. Why? They have a different skin tone. Why? What you got against these people? We want to keep it the way it is. But you can look at to keep it the way it is. Go throughout these little towns in America with a population. And it's nothing there. They don't have no services. The county roads is jacked up. Utility services jacked up. They can't ladies and gentlemen, they can't put it all together. Remember the 5 things. I hope this video make people think from all walks of life. That's what you see on that video. That's what's coming. All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy this video, like and subscribe. Till next time, take care and be blessed.